Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dominic. I heads the focus as chairman of marketing and events. So this is our 11th knowledge series, and all, as you know, this webinar is very focused towards the clean and green energy by our chairman, Mr. Atul Gupta. So the energy of the future, a very interesting topic. This is for the first time that in Focus we are talking on this subject, and I'm sure everybody is quite keen, and I definitely like to see more and more participants joining in a couple of minutes. However, I would like to brief about the Focus. What is Focus? Forum of Critical Utility Services. It's the first time a global initiative taken by the Indian professionals in the field of critical services. So all of us know that we have different vertical like electrical, plumbing, we have HVAC, we have fire, different vertical which are very critical for the building to sustain. So if building to operate, you need to have an elevator, you need to have an air conditioning, you need to have electricity, you need to have plumbing. So we are more like a critical service of the building. So we had a lot of issues in the past where we all work as an independent agency to put up a good infrastructure in a city. So there is a lot of coordination issues, the vendor issues, the manufacturer had a lot of issues. So all the very senior people from the industry, from various verticals, whether it is plumbing, whether it is HVAC, elevator, whether it is power, electrical. So we all come together and started the forum, that is Focus, Forum of Critical Utilities last year in October 26th. Our intention is to build a resilient building. Okay, there is one voice, one vision for the construction industry. That is why the Focus. I would like to elaborate more on Focus through a small video, which will explain you why it is needed today.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted to present to you the Forum of Critical Utility Services, the acronym of which is FOCUS. Much as the acronym suggests, the role of the Forum of Critical Utility Services is to bring in focus all that concerns the construction industry. This is not just for India, but for a coordinated construction industry world over. For those of you who may not be aware, this initiative is to prepare and present a platform where all the verticals of the critical utility services of the construction industry forge into one formidable group that will strive in building unity, aid in diffusing misconceptions, and present itself as a platform for discussions amongst these bodies of professionals. This initiative was born on the 26th of October 2020, when the world was almost silent from the after effects of the pandemic. We say silent because the cry for help and riddance from the clutches of the pandemic were deafening. There simply was no place that was safe anywhere in the world. None of the formidable structures that man had erected was safe for protection from the pandemic. It was during these times that we decided on creating a platform so as to be able to present improved and concerted methodologies of developing projects that shall not just be sustainable or resilient, but also deliver safe environment and a valuable business opportunity to the promoters, not just for some time, but for long time to come. Times when another generation will inherit the good work that we do today. Our efforts begin with drawing the strength from the fields of architecture, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, safety, fire, security, illumination, vertical transportation, IBMS and IT, solid waste management, and last but not the least, facility management. Bring them together and forge them into one strong wheel of change to deliver structures that stand in harmony with Mother Nature on planet Earth. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is our mission. Only when we come together and share our ideas and aspirations will we find the stumbling blocks. It is here then that when we are together and focused towards one goal, we will jointly be able to understand and address our challenges as one formidable force. Not just a force in India, but for a global movement that will find solutions, opportunities, and the means to address productivity, safety, quality, developing skills, training, evolving standards, and ensuring their implementation, thereby becoming centers of excellence and setting benchmarks for generations to pursue and improve. And this is our vision. We have embarked upon reaching out to various verticals of the critical utility services. We will thereafter jointly present our cause to the government and policymakers. We will present our vision to the builders. And we are confident that we will break the shackles of inequality, indifference, ignorance, and mistrust, and build a world that is one with nature. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not here to conjure a forum, but we are here to establish a body that shall have trust, integrity, and honesty for its foundation, and stand on the pillars of knowledge, commitment, enthusiasm, and foresight of its people. Our invitation to you is open. Come and become a part of Focus. It is your contribution and support to Focus that will make a difference to the new India that is being created. Let's join and make this the Bharat that we wear, shining, prosperous, bright, and a true world leader. Let's now focus.
Thank you, Mamta, for the video. That's Focus for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have three chapters today in India. We have a very active chapter in Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, and very soon, by end of August, we'll be having a chapter in NCR, New Delhi, Pune, Kerala, and Ahmedabad. So these are the chapters that we will be soon having. And as I begin the session today, this is our 11th knowledge series. We have a series of a webinar touching upon all the critical services, including project management, waste management, many other critical subjects. Today we have our chairman on power utility, the young dynamic leader of the industry, Atul Gupta, who will open the webinar with his remarks. So over to Atul Gupta. Thank you.
Thanks, Dominic. And I really like your comment on young, though I'm not that young. But yeah, good evening, everyone. And thank you each and everyone for being with us here today. As Dominic mentioned, this is our 11th knowledge series, and we are trying to cover each and every aspect which brings sustainability. Before we get started, I would my voice. Before we start, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you who generously help us to make this event a big success. I thank you all for joining us. So I'll give a very warm welcome to each and everyone, and would request you to become a part of Focus and provide your contribution to make it a big organization. Um, Can you, Mamta, just start like the corporate presentation once?
Our sponsor, Jackson.
The 70-year heritage of Jackson is built on core value of enduring relationship. This journey of Jackson from a genset company to an energy solution providing company and an engineering company is built on this deep-rooted philosophy, and we are totally committed to it.
We have very ambitious growth plans, and a diversified, motivated workforce is very critical to help achieve our goals. We truly believe that our employees are our biggest assets, and we continuously invest in their development through a series of well-defined training and employee engagement programs.
I also like to welcome our president, Mr. V. Suresh, who just joined. So Atul Gupta, our chairman, is giving his opening remarks. So after Atul, you can probably ask our V. Suresh to give an address to all. Yeah. Go ahead, Atul.
So yeah, I'm done with the remarks. So I'll request Suresh sir, in case if he can share his comments, and then we can just start the I would say the flow of the events today.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't have a current in the home, so just come back. Good. The light has just come back. Thank you.
So sir, we are at the right event today.
Yeah. No. I just finished my Ministry of Environment Forest meeting.
No, you said the subject, energy of the future. So your electricity went. So why today the alternate energy is necessary?
Yeah. Good. Wonderful. Thank you so much. First of all, greetings to Samir Gupta ji as well as Atul Gupta ji and all the good speakers, Vaishali ma'am, who is also there for the program, and also Ashish ji, all the other members. Of course, Dominic, very happy good afternoon to everybody for this wonderful program. And you are really selected one of the finest teams, if I may say, on one of the biggest challenges that we have, and that's called the energy of the future. And I think that's an area on which everybody has got to work on. And without this, nothing can happen. No activity can take place without this. And therefore, how do you deal with the particular component of energy crisis, which is there in a very large way in all parts of the country? in the context of the rising population and the rising construction demand, rising building demand, rising activity demand, and therefore energy is required in all areas. And buildings and building construction related activity in the built environment, about 35% of all the energy is taken in this particular sector. And therefore, we got to see how best to use it effectively, efficiently, economically, and more importantly, to see that we harness the energy with the maximum amount of savings to come in the sector. Energy saving is a very important component. I was just in the data centers program last 2-3 days with the biggest energy guzzler out of all the buildings. If you really look at buildings of various categories, from the residential at the lowest end to the commercial, to the in between hospitals, hotels, retail, data center, industry, etc. It's on a band between 25% to around 70% is the electrical component coming as a demand on that. So we always try to see how best we can deal with the segment in a large way, and more importantly, to bring in all the passive design and active design, so energy saving can come into a very large way, which the architects and civil engineers can do to the planning and design areas, by which the heat load can be brought down using the orientation, other related issues there. Then the active energy component, by which all the MEPF engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, firefighting, all the specialists who deal with all the critical utility services can bring down the energy needs in a very large way. And all green building components, we have about 29 rating systems covering all this category of buildings as well as the built environment. We have gone beyond building to the built environment. Even at a city level, we have gone townships, campus, etc. And how we are able to consider one important component of energy to be saved into a very large way. And that's a very significant component. And the next dimension is, how do you get away from the fossil fuel-based grid energy component to more and more of renewable energy component? That's where we are all today here. And Sameerji has given a wonderful lead in this particular area. And Jakson Group itself has been phenomenally working in this particular sector. And that brought in over there how much percentage of the building energy can be renewable energy. And the Energy Conservation Building Code, which is on the Ministry of Power, puts a very small, around 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% energy if you save. It's fantastic according to them. But I am just coming from the meeting of the Ministry of Environment Forest. Minimum is now going to be nothing lower than at least 10% of the grid energy has got to be through renewable. Minimum. I mean, over a period of time, that will increase to 30, 40%, 50% extra. Like, for example, our own energy, if you take about 378,000 megawatt of power being generated all over the country, and the renewable is only around 84,000 megawatt. But that's going to double, and that's going to double in 2021-22 time period. Around it will go to about 1,70,000 megawatt, and the Prime Minister's vision and the Energy Minister's vision is that we'll do 400 gigawatt of renewable energy to come. So that means our present requirement of 3.74, what is being done there, that is will double up to say about 8 gigawatt of energy, and about out of it for 800 gigawatt of energy, or 400 gigawatt will be coming only from the renewable energy component and solar energy. And of course, that's the greatest power that we have of the Surya Bhagavan, and how to harness it very well. Fortunately, the energy cost has come down substantially from renewable energy. It's costing around 16 to 20 rupees, maybe around 20 years, 16 years back time period. It's come down as low as about 2.4 to 2.8 per unit, per rupees per unit on that. So renewable energy technologies have made leaps in this direction, and by which we should be able to get into this area in a very large way. And therefore, our own effort through the green building rating is trying to see to bring energy efficiency through passive design, active design, in terms of air conditioning system, electrical system, lift installation system, the other systems which require electrical energy, and how to bring it down. And next is to get into the renewable component of energy to alternate to the conventional energy to be brought in over there into a very large way. And we have been able to make measurable success. So it's at that context that the climate change agenda also started coming over that. So two major parallel track is working now. One is the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal to the year 2030, started only in 2015. And that is, we are now already 6 years over. We only 9 more years to go for 2021, 2030. Energy is a very, very major component. Then the climate change agenda came over there of the decarbonizing the whole environment and the carbon footprint to be reduced in a very large way. And how can you reduce the carbon footprint? It can only by the thermal energy and the other source of energy through gas or coal or various other things. You don't use that and you really bring clean energy coming into. So I'm happy your own team component is also coming on the clean energy component into a very large way, and what are all the ways by which you can bring in over there, and therefore got to get a series of combination of effort being done over there. Putting my earlier aspect, what I told, and the present one talking about how do you really bring in a substantial amount of change in the decarbonizing environment. Our emissions were to come down in a large way. We are about 21%. We are about 21% at that level. We should go up to roughly 35% down by 2030. We are more or less on track on that as India as a country. But I'm sure by 2050, when you want to work towards the net zero carbon, and that's where I'm very happy and proud as chairman of the IGBC, in which all of us are working. Samirji is a very active partner for me, working with the whole of North India into a very large way. And we already brought into all the 4 major sectors of intervention. Intervention number 1 is the net zero energy component. Our net zero energy rating has become so phenomenal of trying to take care of not only all the energy needs of the building through a combination of all these issues, which I just now told of passive, active, and other related issues, including renewable energy component. Also try to give back to the grid some more energy and all the energy. The Cochin International Airport, they require about 34 megawatt of energy needed. They're able to produce 39 megawatt of energy only through solar. 5 megawatt of energy is extra, and they're able to give back to the grid in a very large way. For example, our own Green Building Center, my corporate office in the Hyderabad of IGBC, you'll be very happy to know every day I give back energy. It's a net zero building there. I give back energy to the Telangana grid over there after the whatever use is required of that side. So that's a way in which the building is going to change in a large way. So net zero energy was the first one to crack from our side, and we have a large number of buildings coming under this category there. The next one is net zero water, another major resource that we are using. And the third one is going to net zero waste, wherein we already, the blueprint is ready. Maybe in months from now, the net zero waste component will be completely cracked. And the result of all that is going to the last one, that's net zero carbon. So all these 4 of net zero energy, water, waste, and carbon put together is a fantastic cocktail by which you'll be able to have sustainability agenda being worked into a very big way. And therefore, in the net zero carbon component, it is not only the energy which is used, the operational energy, quote unquote, but also the embodied energy. Embodied energy is a component of all the energy required for all the building materials, structural, non-structural, finishing and service material, including all the MEPF products there. How do you reduce that particular one? How do you reduce that in a large way? So it's going to be a combination of all the efforts that we have to work on, and I'm very happy that you have initiated a very major program on the energy component, the energy solution for the future, and all the clean energy, green energy aspects in a big way. I want to salute the initiative of Samirji and also Atul and the whole team over there. I'm very happy between Vaishali and Aman, you'll be able to bring in large number of inputs, including Atul's own presentation going to come on the sector there. And I'm very happy for the Focus side, because Focus as an organization is the only one agency of its kind in the whole world, wherein all the interrelated requirements, the critical utility services, there's a platform provided, and all the critical utility services will work only with energy. And without energy, nothing can happen. So therefore, for us, it's an important area of stress area. And we would like to be the IGBC initiative, which I talked, where I chair, and the Focus initiative, which I am leading now, the national, which is only less than about 8 months old. We started in last October 26 now, and we are now going to be the anniversary in October coming now. We have grown very well, and I'm very happy. Energy is a very major sector in which we are working towards the best possible solution. And take my word, ladies and gentlemen, 2030 and 2050 are 2 major, what can I say, milestones in the history of the whole civilization, where the way in which architects think, the engineers think, the MEP of people think, all of them are going to undergo phenomenal change in the planning, design, installation, with everything keeping in view the energy saving component of a very large nature and the decarbonizing agenda that we'll have to work on. And then more importantly, the rise of clean energy to be brought into the sector. That's the only way we'll be able to see that the increase in climate change, the temperature increase supposed to go 2 degrees more going, the whole planet will come to a collapsing situation very shortly. Already you are seeing that the climate change initiative, the temperature rise, the sea level rising and other related area, all these are all linked up. Our idea is to see that don't go beyond 1.5 degrees increased climate change temperature. If we can only do that, provided all this carbon footprint that is continuously being generated in a very large way, and the type of emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions which are coming into the air, you got to bring it down substantially large way. The very major message, we are not woken up. India has not woken up. Let me tell you, warn you. But America has woken up. All the architects there have joined together, and already they brought out the agenda. They brought out the agenda of the architecture of 2030. And what is trying to bother me? I don't know who is this. Sorry. So sorry. So that's it. And therefore, keeping this in view, I'm very happy that America has changed. Architects are changing their agenda. Agendas are also being changed by the structural engineers. The Institute of Structural Engineers got an agenda where steel and cement are a very major material base for construction. Without that, how can you do that? But how will you reduce that particular thing? So the architects in the world, the engineers in the world are all working towards the agenda in a very large way. And we have not been able to gear up to that. I'm happy that a program is now started from Focus Initiative, and very happy that Jackson Group has come forward. I want to wish you all the very best and success for the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I just want to tell the panelists and also the participant, our president, who recently been recognized and awarded as from the ACCI Gaurav Award from the Association of Consulting Civil Engineer. So one of the very prestigious award being conferred on our president. Now over to our chairman, Atul Gupta. Take it forward. Yeah.
Thanks, Suresh, sir. I think he has captured a lot of things. Yes, see, today energy is a need of hour. I mean, and I would say it's an uninterrupted energy. Gone are those days where 5-10 minutes of power cut was acceptable. Now there are sectors which have to have 24 hours of uninterrupted supply. We are a country, we are a power deficit as of now. But as Suresh sir has said, I mean, with the emphasis the government is putting on solar, I mean, we are not far away from being a power surplus country. Maybe by 2020, maybe by 2030 or 2035, at least we should be in a net zero situation, and then post that we might even end up into be a power surplus. So I'll start my presentation. So the flow of events would be, I'll start with a brief introduction on the solar. Then one of my panelists, Vishali, she will share some statistics and why to get into solar. Aman is here to talk more about the open access, which is one of the ways which can benefit all our consumers. Then Mr. Manish Kumar, he will talk more on the solar rooftop. So let me just present my screen. Just give me a minute. Is the screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay.
Visible.
So first, what are the forms of energy? So I've tried to keep it very basic. So there are two forms of energies right now: conventional sources, non-conventional. In conventional, coal, petroleum, electricity, firewood, all these are conventional sources, whereas non-conventional includes your bio, solar, wind, tidal, energy from urban waste. Then what are the advantages of renewable energy? These are the most environment friendly energy source. these are inexhaustible. I mean, it's a plenty supplies available, at least for both solar and wind. And most importantly, they're easy to operate. Then the importance, it's pollution free. As I said, it's available in abundance and it's environment friendly. Currently in India, the largest form of non-conventional source of energy is solar energy. Now, why solar, or why I would say any form of non-conventional energy? See, at least in solar, it reduces your electricity bill. It involves a technology development. As Suresh sir also mentioned, it reduces your carbon emission, and it also reduces your diesel consumption in case if you use a lot of gensets. Currently, government is also focusing on RPO obligation, which means renewable purchase obligations. So solar energy fulfills that obligations. From the investment point of view, it also provides accelerated depreciation benefit, which makes it more of an attractive source, attractive investment opportunity. And then at last, it promotes green energy. Now my fellow panelist Vishali will share a brief about what is solar energy, what different forms are available. So over to you, Vishali. I'm just stopping my screen so you can share your screen.
Good evening, everyone. This is Vishali, and thank you for having me. I'm very pleased to be the panelist on this session. And today I'll be talking about the benefits and the basic concept of solar energy. So let's get started. So basic concept of solar energy. What is solar energy? So solar energy is basically generated from through solar panels. We capture the light and heat from the radiation and then convert it into the electricity. So as this diagram suggests, the sunlight hits the solar panel, which converts the photons are generated, and then photons are converted. This this procedure then generates the DC current is fed into the inverter, which is basically a DC to AC converter only. This inverter converts this DC to AC power, which is finally used in our household appliances to run these equipments. So you can also store the energy generated from solar into batteries for a later use. Okay, so there are two configurations. Other one is on-grid solar. Being off-grid solution, there will be no utility connection with the plant. So since there is no direct connection with utility, you need to have the battery backup, which is very expensive and sometimes bulky and not very much eco-friendly as well. So which eventually defeats the purpose of going solar. On the other hand, on-grid, which is also known as the grid-tied solution, as the name suggests, this solution will be tied up with the direct utility power, utility grid, and through utility grid, in case of the excess generation, you can export the excess power to utility grid, and in case of any lower generation, you will also be compensated through electricity, grid electricity.
Vishali, we are not able to hear you. Vishali, you might need to maybe disconnect and connect again. We are not able to hear you. Sorry, guys, I'll just call her once. Just
She has came back. She's on mute. Vaishali, you on mute?
Yeah, sir, actually my internet connection is not stable. That is why I got disconnected.
if you want to close your video and then just share the presentation, that's okay. Maybe
Okay, let me do that way. Okay, so as I explained, in the on-grid solution, you can be compensated through utility grid in case of lower generation, and you can also export the excess generation to the grid in case of any excess generation. Indian solar development. Okay, so as on 31st May 2021, India's RE capacity stands at 95.7 gigawatt, which in which the leading share is from solar, which is around 43%, which is about 41.2 gigawatt, followed by the wind share of 41%. As in the Paris Agreement, India has taken the target of 100 gigawatt of solar by 2022. We have already achieved 41.2 gigawatt till 31st May. Out of this 100 gigawatt, 40 gigawatt target is taken from the rooftop solar only. In terms of the solar rooftop installation, India stands at 5th ranking worldwide, which is a very attractive number. Also, the rooftop growth rate by 2022 is expected to be 40%. India is the only country among the G20 countries which is on track to achieve its target. So, in the solar solution, the customer has always two options. One is the CAPEX and the other one is the OPEX. As a consumer, you can choose either CAPEX, capital expenditure, or the OPEX model, operational expenditure. When the consumer chooses the CAPEX model, there they pay for the installation cost of the plant and own the asset, and also be responsible for the O&M of the plant as well. While in the OPEX mode, developer will put the solar plant at their own cost, where the consumer will only pay for the monthly energy consumption at a fixed agreed tariff at the time of the PPA signing. In the CAPEX mode, customer can avail the AD benefit, which is a tax benefit. For suppose if you pay the 30% income tax every year, here you can be compensated by the accelerated depreciation benefit of 40% each year, which will be the ultimate saving on the income tax part. Prox cost for putting a CAPEX plant for a consumer comes about 35,000 to 45,000 rupees per kilowatt. It depends on the system sizing, the location of the plant, and other various factors. But from the payback period for a consumer in this model is less than 4 years only. These are some statistics for solar market, particularly for the rooftop. The Indian rooftop solar market is expected to grow at CAGR of more than 25% over the 5 years period. The industrial segment will dominate the market growth during this time, followed by the residential segment, just because the tariff, the increased tariff of the industrial segment. The share of the industrial segment has grown from 23% in 2015 to nearly 70% in 2019, which is again the same reason of increasing tariff for the industrial segment. So Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Gujarat are the 5 leading states for rooftop solar power industry. These 5 states account for nearly 46% of the total rooftop in the country. In 2020, the commercial and industrial sector accounted for 4.3 gigawatt of energy, followed by 800 megawatt of the residential sector and 700 megawatt of the public sector. Some reports have also forecasted nearly 40% growth in the rooftop installation year over year in 2022. Okay, so that's it from my end. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Vishali. Thanks, Vishali. I think the statistics which you have shown are very promising, and going forward, I think solar would be the key for each and every industry. Now, I would request my panelist, Mr. Manish Kumar, to discuss on off-grid applications, which is more of the solar rooftop. Since he's stuck up in location in Chennai where the network is the issue, so he might not show his video. Vishali, can you just share his presentation? I mean, since he's not, he has a network issue, can you
Sure,
just
sir.
help him out?
Yes, yes.
So over to you, Manish ji.
Thank you, Atulji. Thank you so much. And once more, a warm welcome to all the people who have taken out time to join this seminar. And hopefully everybody would be benefited out of this. So I hope my voice is clear.
Yes, Manish ji, the voice is clear.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vaishali, for this. So we will be talking about the generating electricity. Today, the smart way is the solar powered. So with the increasing cost of power and electricity, a number of businesses we have been seeing now are shifting towards the solar power system. With a solar power plant installed on your rooftop, you can produce and consume your own power. So it's beneficial for you that you save electricity on this, as you will be producing your own power, you will be the producer of the own power and consumer of the own power also. So you consume the cheaper power, which is produced by solar and with no pollution and of course, no transmission losses. Presently, whatever we are getting from a thermal power plants to our grid, there are a lot of transmission losses for which we are also paying in our electricity grid bills. But in case of solar, there is no transmission losses and it is directly being consumed to your own houses or the buildings. So solar, no doubt, is the cheapest source of power available in the world today. And consumers can take benefit and save on electricity expenses by going into solar. And we as Jackson help with end-to-end solar rooftop design, installation, maintenance, including all the government permits required. So it's a one-stop solution for all the customer needs. And we design, install, and maintain the complete solar plants. Now let's see where the applications are, where we can have that rooftop kind of a application wherein the rooftop solar can be installed. Of course, one comes into the mind are the factories. The factories which have good industrial shades is the major area where the solar rooftop can be installed. The corporate buildings where the roof is there available, of course, that is one of the key areas where these things can be installed. And nowadays we are seeing even the parking lots, car parking lots, people are utilizing it as a shed also and putting a solar rooftop on the parking sheds. So wherever the roof is available, the solar can be installed. Of course, the warehouses which have big roof, again, the solar can be installed. Cold storage is one of the application where the we have again big shade, tin shades available and the solar can be installed very comfortably. If we talk about colleges, universities, even it has become mandatory now that at least 10 to 15% of the power of a university has to be through solar. So again, the solar again a good roof available in the universities where the solar can be installed. And of course, hospital is one area where the solar can be installed. So ideally, wherever the roof is available and the electricity bills are too high, we should definitely install a solar rooftop to consume that roof and get the additional benefit of free power available through the radiation of sun. Next slide, please. So if we talk about the benefits of solar, cost and energy saving, of course, it reduces your electricity bill by almost all 50%, as the complete sunlight available throughout the day can produce solar power, and almost all your 50% to 60% of your electricity bill can be saved. Approximately the cost of power is 50% lesser per unit as per the electricity prices. So nowadays it is more than 50% lesser, in fact, with the coming down of the solar prices. And of course, 90% lesser price from the DG. Today the DG power is available almost all at the rate of 27 to 28 rupees per unit, because diesel has gone to a cost of almost all 100 rupees a liter. So it is almost 10% to the DG power unit available today. Then of course, tax credit, which Vaishali also talked about, the tax credit, the grants, the government incentives towards the solar. Though incentive differs state-wise, it is different for every states today. No pollution and noise-free system. So we talked about it because it's a clean and green power. Reduce the roof temperature from 2 to 5 degrees while using solar projects. Of course, once you are installing solar rooftop on a roof, it reduces the temperature of the roof also inside. So better cooling effect received inside the room also. It reduces the dependence on fossil fuels, so which we are talking about, everybody is talking about today to eliminate fossil fuels. So it reduces the dependence on the fossil fuels and takes us towards the net carbon zero conditions. Easy installation and durable system. It can be easily installed on the roof, any kind of roof, whether it's a tin shed roof, it's an RCC roof, it's an asbestos roof. All solutions are available. One-time investment with fixed energy costs. So it's a capex model, which Vaishali also talked about. So it's a one-time investment and you get the ROI in less than 4 years today. And rest of the 21 years, the power is available free of cost to you. Earn great returns on your investments that we talked about. It's after 4 years, it's a 21 free power available to you. Cost benefits, if we talk for the industry, for the user, it's an accelerated depreciation available. 40% of accelerated depreciation is available YOY, year on year, on solar rooftops. Then subsidy are available in certain states according to the capacity of solar rooftops. The state-wise subsidy charts are available. The tariff of solar, of course, as we talked, is less than the grid and the DG. So it's a total cost saving solution. And ROI we are getting in almost all 3 to 4 years. So in the end, we can say we are also saving cost. We are giving a green and cleaner energy. And of course, we are preventing the climate change and giving something to our future and to the society. Talking about the solar system components, if we talk, there are two major kind of modules today available in the market. One, we call it as a polycrystalline module, which is available till the range of 335 watt peak. And another is the monocrystalline module, which is available from 400 watt peak to up to 590 watt peak. And in fact, for the 590 watt peak, Jakson is the only manufacturer today manufacturing the Helia series of 590 watt peak in India under the Make in India concept. So all certifications are also available for these modules, and it certifies to all the IEC and BIS standards. The another major component, of course, the module has to be installed on certain structures. So it becomes another major component of a solar system. The module mounting structure. So it may vary depending upon the type of installation. Of course, if it is a RCC roof, it will have a different kind of structure. And if it is a tin shed roof, it will have a different type of aluminum rail structures. So various types of materials which are used for making structure is of course the hot dip galvanized iron structures are also available. The aluminum and mild steel structures are also available, and the pre-gal structures are also available. So depending upon site to site, these types of structures are available and can be provided as a solution to the customer. The first pic shows something about the standard structure. If you have an RCC roof, there's a standard structure available, the single or double portrait. It will be easy to install, and these are designed as per the wind speed of that area, generally the state where it is to be installed, but the average wind speed design is around 160 km per hour. The other type of structure we see is the ballast type structure. It is in this, the floor anchoring is not required. If it's an RCC roof also and you do not want to anchor the roof, we can provide you a ballast type of structure where there will be no problem of puncturing the roof or leakage of roofs. And these can also be designed for 180 to 200 km per hour of wind speed. Then of course, if it's a ground mounted installation, there's a ground mounted structure available. Again, requires piling of the PCC. It may require civil work, which is mounted on a ground, and the piling and the footings of the structure are grouted inside the ground. And again, these are designed as per the 180 to 200 km hour of wind speed. However, it depends upon if it's a sea coast, it can be designed to even more than that also if it is required. Now coming to the rooftop of industrial tin sheet structures, these are anodized aluminum extrusion profiles. So it's kind of an aluminum rail running over the rooftop structures, tin sheet structures, wherein again there is no puncturing allowed in the structure so that there is no water entry or leakage of the structure. So that we keep in mind and we do not puncture these shades and put the solar modules without puncturing the shades. Yeah, next slide, please. The third major component of the solar system is the inverter, which is a device that converts the DC electricity into the AC electricity. So modules which we were talking, they give you a DC current, and now we are putting an inverter to convert it into an AC current. So inverter functionality is maximum DC power output from PV modules through maximum power point tracking, that is called the MPPT. It converts the DC power to AC power. We have grid-tied inverters, we have off-grid inverters, we have hybrid inverters. 3 types of inverters are available, and it can be a central inverter also and a string inverter also. So depending upon the application, the size of the project, of course, these kind of inverters are offered and selected while designing it. Next slide, please. So now coming to the 3 basic parameters which will determine the solar system size. It is very easy to recall the electricity bill. If it is higher, then your solar system definitely should be installed to reduce the electricity bill and to work on the savings, which will be better for our pockets only. Secondly, the rooftop space which is available. If you have a space available, let's utilize it and get the free power available for years and years. And of course, third is the DISCOM policy available, which may be the net metering policy, the gross metering policy, or the zero export policy, depending upon the state to state. So as a thumb rule, if we talk about a solar, 1 kilowatt of solar will generate almost all 1400 units per kilowatt per year. So if you have 100 kilowatt of solar, it is 1,40,000 units per year multiplied by the tariff rate. So almost all 8 rupees is the commercial rate, or 9 rupees. Even in Maharashtra, we have 10 to 11 rupees also. So that is the exact saving what you get from solar throughout the year. If we talk about the space available, per kilowatt of solar requires almost all 80 to 100 kilowatt square feet of area. So approximately, if you have 1,000 square feet of area, you can install accordingly, considering 1,000 divided by 100 square feet. So it gives you a 10 square feet of solar rooftop space available. And of course, the DISCOM policies, if we talk about the solar amount of solar which can be installed at your factory or the commercials, has to be lesser than or equal to the sanctioned load which the DISCOM has given you. If the sanction load is 100 kilowatt, some states have that it should be 80% of the sanctioned load. So you can install a 80 kilowatt solar if the roof and space is available. And in some states, it is equivalent to the sanctioned load also, where you can install equivalently to the sanctioned load. Next slide, please. Now there are different metering processes involved. One is the net metering process. We will talk about it in the next slide. Vaishali, next slide, please. So if we talk about the net metering process, basically there is a net meter in a bidirectional meter which can run backward and forward. So that means you will have a bidirectional meter between your solar and the grid, which will be running both ways, backward as well as forward. It initializes a special metering and billing agreement between the utility provider and their customers. So net meter allows you to basically consume the power which you are wanting to consume in your own plant. And if you have any excess power, you sell this excess power to the grid. So this will be recorded in the bidirectional meter, and wherein the power which is you are wanting to use, you will use, and the excess power generally produced at various sources, you will export it to the grid. So hence net metering encourages customer to produce their own power. And this system is beneficial in India as power demand is greater than the power supplies. And if we talk about the benefits of net metering, it basically protects the customer when they are unable to use the power generated from the solar. For example, if you have generated power in the afternoon and 100 kilowatt power is generated in the afternoon and 50 kilowatt is only consumed. So 50 kilowatt, you are basically exporting it to the grid. So, and you can use this power at the same rate if you are having a net metering. At the same rate, you can reuse this power once the solar power is not getting generated. So it gives you an additional benefit. It gives you an additional benefit of saving on the power, whether the solar is there or not. Of course, there is a policy from center wherein they allowed a 500 kilowatt of net metering. 500 kilowatt of net metering was allowed, or it has to be lesser than the sanctioned load. But presently, the clause also says that they have also left to the states to take the decision whether they want that net metering processes or not. So already few of the states, including Karnataka, Gujarat, MP, Rajasthan, Punjab, they are allowing the net metering processes to up to 500 kilowatt. And slowly, we hope the other states will also be coming in line with that. Coming to the next slide, please. Now the other process is the gross metering process, which unlike the net metering, if we were talking, your premises cannot directly use the power generated by your solar panel. So you directly are not using your solar power, but whatever you are producing the solar power from your rooftop, it gets exported entirely to the grid, and the electricity you require comes from the grid then. So all the solar energy generated is injected to the grid instead of using it directly. So there will be a separate meter in this case for measuring the solar energy export and import from the grid. And one bill for the consumption of electricity. There will be a one bill from the grid has to be paid by the customer to the utility provided, and one bill for energy injected. Though saving is lesser in this case as there is a hike in the utility rate in the range of 3 to 5%, unlike the net metering processes. Next slide, please. As solar is a 25-year of purchase commitment for you also and for the seller also. So it's very important that proper maintenance and after sales service should be there. So always we have to take care of the preventive maintenance, the regular system checkups by the engineers quarterly or 4 times in a year, Of course, it's not a costly affair because the only maintenance involved is the cleaning of the modules, which is through the water only, and which can be done comfortably by the individual user, or the O&M or AMCs are available by Jackson also to do all these, to give all these kind of services to our valued customers. Next slide, please. Now coming to, so after solar, we would also like to highlight the new technology which is coming into market, which is we are seeing or hearing in news also, the battery energy storage system called the BESS. So this basically is a system which gives a low carbon emission, making it an effective and acceptable energy solution. So ideally, if we talk about the system, it is a combination of lithium-ion battery packs with a PCU of required power, with a EMS, which is the energy management system, and totally enclosed inside a housing with thermal cooling and HVAC provided to maintain the temperature of the batteries. It's a very reliable source of energy with instantaneous power backup capable of bearing high loads. It's totally a silent power back as compared to gensets and all. There's no rotating part into it. It's a contemporary and compact design, saving a lot of space and very much suitable for residential and C&I segments. Next slide, please. If we are talking about this, we should also talk about, I think, the challenges which we are facing today as a consumer. Everybody will be facing different kind of challenges. However, we have been jotting some 9-10 challenges which are being faced by the Indian industry today or C&I segment today. One may be the diesel genset ban, which we are seeing in Delhi NCR or during winters every year since last 3-4 years. And once it is here, I think the same thing will be done in other metro cities also. Then we are facing, if diesel gensets are not there, what next? Then gas gensets. That also is not becoming a viable solution because of the shortcomings in the terms of ratings and capacities today, as there are no manufacturers manufacturing gas gensets today in India. So of course, the cost of the gas genset is again a big issue today. DGs we have already talked about. The OPEX cost is approximately 28 rupees per unit today, which is too high today to be afforded. And we are seeing the price increase of 30 to 40% expected in the DG segment once the CPCB 4 being announced. So as we may be aware, the CPCB 4 norms will be coming into India, which is equivalent to your Euro 6 norms in automobile industry. So these will be implemented from 1st January 23. So the total technology on DG industry will change because the NOx levels and the PM levels have to be reduced by almost 90% to whatever they are existing today. So the cost of the DG sets are bound to increase right from 25 to 40% range, depending upon the capacity to capacity. Then, of course, another norm which has come is the scrapping of the DGs, 15 years old, which from the date of manufacturing. The same is also coming on automobile. We are seeing it has already come. Then UPS is not a sustainable solution. It has a lot of shortcomings ranging from backup time. So this battery energy storage system can be one of the better option in comparing to UPS also. Environmental hazards, of course, the VRLA battery replacement every 2 years. That is the shortcoming of UPS we are seeing. This battery energy storage rules out all these things and gives you a better edge with lithium ion technology covering your life of lithium ion for almost all 10 years. So the battery life is 10 years and the equipment is warranted for almost all 5 years. So critical health conditions we are seeing because of the hazardous battery health conditions of VRLA and gel in the UPS also, which is not the case in lithium ion batteries. Next slide, please. If we talk about the need of the hour today, the energy storage has become the need of the hour, and it is very much advantageous where we want to save diesel saving and reduce the energy bills. Again, we are talking about the cost saving processes. It also reduces the carbon footprints as it has zero emissions. And it's an instantaneous backup resulting in production loss savings. It also optimizes your sizing of DG sets in case of the increase in overall efficiency of the system. So just below we have given a scenario like in 2020, the DG capex today involved may be less, but OPEX is too high as the cost of diesel is increasing day by day and the unit cost is coming almost 28 rupees. But in today's scenario, the best cost is capex may be more because of the lithium ion batteries, but the OPEX is negligible as there is no running cost involved in the battery energy storage systems. But in 2022, at the end of the scenario, you will see the changes happening because the DG cost may go up as the CPCB 4 comes from 1st January 23. And OPEX also maybe keep on increasing because of the rise in the diesel cost. But whereas the trend of lithium ion is coming down because of the manufacturing facilities of lithium ion batteries coming up in India under the PLI scheme of Modi ji. So the capex will have to come down, and OPEX of course is hardly anything. So the gap between the capex and the OPEX will be very negligible in next 2 years. Next slide, please. So as compared to this, the advantages of BESS, if you see, no civil work required. It comes as a compact system. There's no civil work required. It can be placed as it is onto the floor. It has an enclosure which is IP54 certified protection. The total charging time of the lithium ion is just hardly 2 hours compared to VRLA or lead acid, which is 6 to 8 hours. It has an in-house smart EMS for optimal performance and efficiency. And it has a remote monitoring also, data logging optionally available, and it complies to all the IC standards, of course. Next slide, please. It's compact and modular. You can buy one BESS and keep on adding the number of modules into it to increase its capacity year on year. It has a minimum 10 years of life or 3000 cycles. There are no operational losses like fuel theft and etc. It has a special unique feature that it can be charged with any available source, DG, solar, grid. Whereas UPS, if were talking, it can be charged only with grid. So this can be charged with any available source. It is able to cater the 100% load of its capacity. For example, if we are buying a DG sets of 100 kVA, the block loading, step loading capacity is just 50 to 55%, and average loading you take as 70-75%. Whereas in BESS, we talk about 100 kilowatt means 100 kilowatt single step load can be put on BESS without any durations. No noise, no air pollution due to the clean power available, and it's a zero diesel requirement. No running costs, zero maintenance, instantaneous power. No O&M required, so 100% saving on the OPEX part also. And it is able to synchronize with any other sources, that is the solar, grid, DG. So it can work in a synchronized mode with any of the other power source available. Next slide, please. This is just a trend we wanted to show you, the cost reduction which is happening on the lithium ion side. If we see in last almost all 12 years, the lithium ion batteries, the green line, which is shooting down only, the green line, the lithium ion batteries have almost all come down to 200 to 300% of reduction already in prices, and it is bound to go down only because of the incoming manufacturing plants which are coming in India for manufacturing of lithium ion batteries. And if we talk about the diesel prices, it has been growing and growing, and which is resulting into the high OPEX of the diesel gensets today. Next slide, please. This is just a block diagram how you can connect a battery energy storage. It can be connected through the solar also. It can connect through the DG also, and both power can synchronize also, all the three powers, and can be given to your load. So it has all the algorithms in the EMS, energy management systems, And depending upon your programming, it can run the system, whether you want the battery to run first, you want the solar to run first, you want the DG to run, when you want the DG to run, when you want the solar to run. All the automizations are available in the energy management system provided with the BESS. As regard to the capacity, I would just like to brief you. It is available right from 5 kilowatt onwards to any kilowatt or megawatt rating, and for any kind of power backup available. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you so much. That was all about the battery energy storage and the solar rooftop. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Manishji. That was very informative. In fact, I think the rooftop potential is still not explored in India as of now, because with the 40 gigawatts of total installation, we are just sitting with 5 to 6 gigawatt of rooftop installation. So henceforth, I think there will be a lot of scope with rooftop also in India henceforth. So thanks for all the inputs which you have shared. Now over to Aman. Aman will talk about more about the off-grid applications, what is available. So Aman's all yours.
Thank you, Atul, and thank you, Manishji, for giving such detailed presentation. May I ask how much time we have? Because accordingly, I will adjust my speaking time.
Aman, I would
5:17, yeah,
Yeah.
probably 10
10 to
minutes.
10 to 15 minutes maximum, because we are running late and we need to take few questions also. I've tried to answer a lot of them while Manishji was sharing his presentation, but then there are a few questions which I would like the panelists to discuss. So I think 10 to 15 minutes is the maximum what we would request you to cover.
Right, no problem. So I'll talk about the open access. It's a much debated topic as on date now, because typically the electricity sector has been in a very monopolistic market, where the electricity has been provided by only the DISCOM, where the DISCOM is only producing either buying or producing the electricity from the generator or through open market. But whereas consumer has been never given a chance to really have some kind of alternate options to get a supply, to get an electricity. So as I mentioned, traditionally power sector has been regulated by the government, and consumers are typically bound to purchase from electricity from state-owned electricity department. Whereas these DISCOMs are buying typically from generators either through open market or directly from directly signing PPA, that is what we call a power purchase agreement from the generators. However, now from typically monopolistic market, the government has been focusing on the consumer side. Now it is becoming eventually more consumer-centric business. So we have already witnessed, in telecom sector, in the road sector, wherein there is a combination of private and government, and they are competing to provide you efficient service. Similarly, in the electricity, now the aim of the government is to provide a very efficient and reliable power supply through competitive mode. So, mind it, the competition has been also brought in by the government through the enactment in the Electricity Act in 2003. So open access is basically plug and play. It is in the both sector, transmission and distribution. I will talk about specifically here in distribution side. So distribution is basically you as a consumer are free to purchase electricity from either of the either of the suppliers, or you can be your own supplier to have electricity for your own requirement. So the only basic issue is that you need to be a consumer of more than 1 megawatt, and accordingly you can qualify to be in the open access. On open access size, I would say electricity consumers with more than 1 megawatt is the key requirement. Further, coming back to the presentation, there are typically, the diagram has been given how the open access works. So open access could be, it is, buying from open traded system, or through setting up a plant of your own, wherein you will have to take a permission from respective DISCOMs and the transmission utility that you will be pumping power from your own facilitations or you will be buying from other market players. So there are typically two ways of doing the open access, which I will, I will define here in the, there are typically two types of open access: intrastate open access and intrastate open access. In intrastate open access, you will have to buy within the state, wherein the local state utility comes into the picture and the regulatory comes into the picture. So there are three types of open access: short-term, medium-term, long-term, depending upon the requirement. Generally, people go for long-term open access by developing their own power plant and pumping power into the grid and then withdrawing it at their consumer level. So in short term, basically you buy a power for approximately not more than 3 months. In medium term, you have to buy power between 3 to 5 years, and in long term, above 5 years to 25 years, you sign an agreement to facilitate this open access. In intrastate, there are a lot of other agencies are also involved. Suppose if your factory, your consumption is in Punjab, you are allowed to put up a plant in Chhattisgarh. There the electricity could be cheaper, the land could be cheaper, the billing charges could be cheaper, the transportation could be cheaper. So the government of India, the contract, the Indian Electricity Act gives you a right to even transfer the electricity from one state to another state. In general, there are two types of transaction generally happens in this market. It is bilateral and collateral. In bilateral, you directly speak to the consumer, and the seller speaks, the buyer and seller speaks directly through, of course, the local DISCOM people, through local DISCOM utility. And in collective transaction, you exchange through marketplace. Like we have IEX and PXL, Indian Energy Exchange and Power Exchange of India Limited, wherein you can trade the power. So there are a lot of generators there, and depending upon the congestion of the infrastructure available, you can trade the electricity on daily basis, monthly basis, hourly basis. There are a lot of options available in the market. So what is the benefit, I would say, through to have open access? Of course, the most important benefit is to meet the RPO obligation. There has been a mandate from the state utility, from the central utility, that you need to switch at least some of the power requirement from renewables. So to promote the renewables, government has specifically come up that let's give the private companies, to give them the chance to produce their own electricity, and then they can utilize that electricity through open access for consumption in their own plant. Mind it, your plant should have a capacity of more than 1 megawatt. There, only two things are typically, content and carriage method works, wherein the supplier is someone else. However, the transmission infrastructure shall be utilized of DISCOM only by paying some of the charges, which is in the form of transmission charges or losses. It varies from state to state. There are in Karnataka there are very flexible policies, whereas other states are adopting those flexible policies in terms of transmission charges, wheeling charges, and availability of land and pooling of land. All those sort of mechanisms has been innovatively are being driven by the state to promote the open access. So you get to do the energy purchase or RPO obligation. Second is you are actually strengthening the your own requirement. So you will have your own dedicated line, dedicated infrastructure. You will have your own plant. You can improvise on your energy requirement, energy need according to your own requirement. Third is the most important is there has been a lot of debate about electrical vehicles. There could be a grid imbalancing due to sudden load requirement, a drop in the load requirement. But here through open access, this gives you a very fair chance wherein you can have your own load at particular time. If you want to, you can speak to local SLDCs and accordingly arrange for the power. And first, and the foremost, the cost of electricity and the dependency on the DISCOM is very less. So I'll show you in subsequent slides that we are able to save at least 10 to 15% of the cost, and most importantly, the every month, every year, the pain of negotiating and coordinating with the discom is just vanish away. So typically on the open access charges are, the concept is you can have your own supply, but infrastructure has to be of discom. So in the infrastructure side, you have following charges: the connectivity charges, the POC charges, transmission, wheeling, crop subsidy, SLD, RLDC. Mind it, it varies from state to state. You are allowed. In some cases, it is exempted. In some cases, it is higher. In some cases, it is low. But if we talk about overall scenario, I think we are easily able to save around 10 to 20% of the cost with much of a reliability and quality power. If I just give you the glimpse of some states wherein there has been given a lot of the charges which the state government has been implementing. It is just for your reference. And to summarize, I think Karnataka still remains to be top leader in the open access. As on today, open access policy was brought in, I think, 2008. Since then, it has been in fashion. People are slowly, and especially the ST consumers, are slowly and steadily adopting this mechanism because they find it much more cheaper, much more reliable, and plus they get to have a carbon footprint as well. So open access, I think, as on date, if I talk, more than 5 gigawatt there has been installed capacity, and of course more than 1 gigawatt is under construction. So these are typical states which have different policy. It all depends on how you want to set up a plant, where do you want to set up a plant. There is no restriction on the requirement. You can set up a plant of 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt, again depending upon the regulatory norms of that particular state. This gives a very brief summary of what kind of a saving we expect in open access. So if we compare, to give an example in within UP to UP, although I would mention that we are the first company to install and commission one of the power plant in one of this open access power plant, Sonal renewable power plant in the state of UP. This policy was brought in 2018, and we were the only company who had successfully coordinated with the UPPTCL, the local discom, in of course installation, testing, commissioning, and getting it synchronized through the grid. So we found that while doing this such analysis, we found that every year we are easily able to save around 50 lakh rupees per megawatt. And that is, mind it, my friends, this is a very huge cost saving, and with much of the security of power, and without any dependence on the discom. This is all I wanted to say. I just wanted to keep it brief because I was sure that and the time was very limited. So any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Oh, thanks, Aman. Thanks for this wonderful information. I think the customers who doesn't have the rooftop, all those customers having a demand of more than 1 megawatts can opt for open access. And in fact, I was reading one of the articles by our Honorable Power Minister, Mr. R.K. Singh. They are coming up with a policy where anyone who wants to go for open access, they can just simply file an application, and in 15 days, it will be supposed to be a deemed approval. So again, government, like, they are focusing a lot on rooftop, they are focusing a lot on open access also. They are promoting a lot of initiatives which increases usage of solar electricity. Also, what I've realized from your information, like, most of the states are favoring open access. Either they are waiving off some charges, or they are giving some exemption on some charges. So all the states are promoting open access, which is a good news. So now I'll just extend the floor for all the questions. There are few of the questions. I've tried to answer a lot of questions in paucity of time, but there are few questions which I would request my panelists to answer. So Manish ji, Vicky Gandhi has asked a question. how gross metering works for ST consumer, where meter is installed before transformer.
Basically, as we told in gross metering, whatever electricity is produced will be going directly to the grid. So whatever you are producing is going directly to the grid, and from the grid, as you are getting this power, so whatever you are consuming, it will be recorded in the meter. And there will be a fixed charges for that, depending upon state to state, what are the gross metering charges of that state.
Okay.
So it is irrespective whether it is LT or HT. So because whatever you produce, you give it to the grid and use it from the grid itself.
I hope that answers Vicky's question. Again, and the next question is addressing towards you. The question is, what is the maximum size per module of energy storage system available? I think they wanted to ask, what is the maximum size of energy storage system which is available?
As I mentioned in my presentation also, we can manufacture right from 5 kilowatt onwards, the battery energy storage system, and it can go up to any megawatt scale also, whatever is required as per your load.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Manishi. Jatin, I hope that answers your question. So, Aman, there was one question in regards to you regarding the cross subsidy surcharge in state of Karnataka. I think it exempted, but do you want to throw some light on that?
Yes, it is exempted for as of now. Maybe there might be had been change in the regulations in last 2-3 days, but as on date, what I understand, it is exempted. Yes.
There's another question which just came for you. Mr. Sudhakar is asking, in case if we have a solar plant in Karnataka, can we use it for ST/LT as well?
Sir, it is not really about ST and LT. It's more about the capacity you have on to utilize. So if it is about more than 1 megawatt, and if you are carrying that capacity on more than 33 kV, then of course you can utilize. I don't think LT it is allowed in Karnataka.
Okay. Thanks, Amang. Any more questions for the floor?
No, I have a question. Is this a domestic, when an apartment community want to set up a solar plant for the electricity? Does government encourage the subsidies and some benefit for the developer?
So, Dominic, see, there used to be a lot of subsidies both in residential and in industrial sector, but now solar has become such a competitive. I mean, as we have shared, I mean, it's cheaper than the normal power. So why do you require a subsidy? That's the question, because anything which is subsidized might not be, I would say, sustainable. So today, government is not giving any subsidies, but yes, if you are putting your own plant, you get accelerated depreciation, which reduces your tax burden. That is still a tax subsidy which government gives, but there are no grants which are available right now, at least in the commercial sector. Maybe some states might be promoting a residential by giving some subsidy, but it all depends upon state to state. There is no central subsidy per se.
Okay, there is no subsidy
From the
okay.
central government.
What is the tax structure for the solar plant to be?
Manishi, can you just be on a mute? Sorry, yeah. So see, currently the tax, all the solar plants which are developed, I think after 1st April 2020, have been given a special tax structure of 15%. So you just have to pay 15% tax on your income. The net profit here. The net profit before tax, you just have to pay 15%. And if it's a bigger plant, then you end up paying MAT, which is 18%. So it's cheaper than, yes, it's cheaper than your normal corporate tax. See, what we have seen with a lot of consumers now who have installed the solar plant either through open access or through on their rooftop, all the money, all the capex is recovered in 3 to 4 years. And then for the balance 21 years, it's a free electricity for them.
Okay. Okay. The last question from my side. Anybody manufacturing complete, today solar cells are still imported from various countries. When will India will be capable of producing its own cell? And if not, what stops us in making solar cells?
Okay, so see, currently we have a 10 gigawatt of module capacity, manufacturing capacity, and close to, I would say, maybe 1 to 1.5, actually 2 gigawatt of cell manufacturing capacity in India. This is the current capacity. And now government has come up with a new scheme called PLI scheme, which is production linked incentive. So government is pushing a lot of focus on Make in India. And that is why they are coming up with such attractive policy for manufacturing. So I think in next 5 years, the scenario will change a lot. I don't know what would be the numbers be, but the scenarios will change a lot in next 5 years. I know for the fact that there are a lot of present module manufacturers who wants to increase their capacity, and maybe next 1.5 years, we might have a 20-25 gigawatt of production capacity.
Wonderful. Well, any key component that again you need to, even if you manufacture, you need to still import,
Yes.
or does India, resources are good enough to do it?
See, the cells is made of silicon, and that is, China is the largest manufacturer of silicon. So you still have to import. But the good part is, see, the silicon is made out of wafer, and for the wafer, you need the silica, which India has in abundance. So now Reliance, I think in their recent AGM, they have come up with the announcement where they want to put an integrated manufacturing capacity facility, where from silica they will make a module. So again, see, solar is a evolving industry. What was there 5 years back is not there today. 5 years back, the PPA prices was in the range of 8-9 rupees, and today we are talking about 2 rupees. So it's evolving a lot. So 5 years down the line, yes, there might be a lot of manufacturing which is happening in India, but nothing is stopping Indians right now to manufacture anything. I think it's just the policy support, and I would say maybe it's just the policy support, I would say.
Good. Anyway, I have another question. Is all the automobile industry will move into clean energy from oil and gas? Do they move into lithium battery vehicle?
So Aman, do you want to answer this? This is your favorite topic, so you want to answer this?
It's in regard to the lithium battery?
Yeah. So
will all the automobile that in India will shift by 2025? What is the percentage of conversion that you are expecting?
So Dominic, first of all, yes, as on today, the batteries which are being used in automobile are mostly lithium ion. That's correct. But there are various combinations of lithium ion chemical composition, which are changing every day. It is just R&Ds are going on, and accordingly how efficient the batteries are, and accordingly they are being mechanized. Today there are more there are more options available in the battery. If we talk about the sodium, if we talk about the vanadium, there are a lot of different chemical compositions of batteries which are coming into the market. This is one part. Second part is we have been hearing about the hydrogen economy in last 6-7 months. The people are talking about crazily about the hydrogen, and we have seen a lot of now pilot also from different PSUs who are working on the transportation side to bring hydrogen buses, the high capacity buses and the trucks, which will be completely running on hydrogen, where the batteries may not be able to support because of the the energy requirement to pull that the transport mechanism. But yes, but hydrogen fuel cells would be able to do that. Recently, I saw a tender of NTPC and IOCL, wherein then they have already completed first phase of hydrogen. Hydrogen buses have been moved around, and they have been working very closely on that green hydrogen area. So I think yes, on the smaller segment, there will be a lot of batteries will be there. Battery based vehicles will be there. But on the truck and heavy vehicle side, there will be hydrogen-based vehicles. Eventually, over the period, once the hydrogen becomes economical viable, I think that batteries will also be replaced by the hydrogen. And to answer your question precisely, by 2025, see till today the rate has been very low in adoption of the green, battery-based vehicles. Eventually, the government has been focusing a lot to switch from typically from fossil fuel based to battery based vehicle. I think the rate will increase, but I am really not sure that by 2025 we will be able to replace all the vehicles with the battery based energy storage vehicles, battery based vehicles. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you very much.
But what I've seen, a lot of states, they are promoting EV vehicles by waiving your registration charges. So I think the emphasis is there. And I think more than the batteries, I think I'm more keen now to understand how hydrogen will work in vehicles. Government have started focusing on like hydrogen-based vehicles now. And I think this will be the next form of energy which will be utilized a lot in India. So we have two more questions. I think one for Vishali and one for Manishji. So Manishji, Mr. Ramakrishna wants to ask, what is the structural load of solar PV module per square feet to be considered in civil design?
Sir, if we talk about the bigger modules, which are we were talking about the 540, 590 watt peak of modules today, the structural load you have to consider is around 28 kg per meter square.
Okay. Okay, Manishji. Vishali, I think the last question, I'll address it to you. So just one sec. Yeah. So Mr. Punya has asked, what are the reasons why we are not able to achieve the targeted goal of solar installations? I mean, so I'll just add one thing before Vishali answers. So see, we are almost achieving the target. So our target was 100 gigawatt by end of 2020. And we are today sitting at 90 gigawatts. So we are almost like touching the target. But Vishali, do you want to address this question?
Yes, actually, we are lacking on the policy part right now. There are no concrete policy related to the Make in India, or you can say there were very state-wise the regulations was different. People has no clarity. That is why. But right now, as India is like focusing on the Make in India module, we will definitely achieve our 2030 target, which is 450 gigawatt of total renewable energy. Right now, for solar upfront, we are at 40 gigawatt. By 2022, we are supposed to achieve by 70 gigawatt. As I mentioned, there is 50 gigawatt of total renewable energy in pipeline, out of which 30 gigawatt are various stages of implementation. So definitely, by 70% of target will definitely achieve by 2022. Just now, government is more focusing on the Make in India thing. That is why they are imposing the BCD safeguard duty on modules and cells as well. Now, definitely we'll achieve our 2030 target of 450 gigawatt.
Thanks, Vishali. And I'll just add one more thing. See, solar is a sunrise industry, and every sunrise industry faces some kind of challenges. So in 10 years, the kind of growth what solar has witnessed, I don't think so any other sector had witnessed that growth. The major challenges which includes right now in solar is one, I mean, it requires land, and buying land in India is a tough task. So that's why, I mean, I think once we promote the rooftop, once the government promote and advocate rooftop, I think we will be able to achieve our target. Then secondly, I would say these policies are the keys. I mean, again, since we are in transition stage, every couple of years, there's a new policy regarding which impacts the developers. But I mean, see, long run, I mean, solar is the key. I mean, you can't run away from it. And if India has to be power surplus, you have to have energy from renewable, at least 50%. Dominic, there was a question by one of the attendees. I mean, can we share the presentation with them? So, I mean, see, we as Focus, we believe on sharing the information. So we don't mind it. But yeah, as per the policies and guidelines of Focus, I'll leave this decision up to you.
No, this recorded video, the entire conversation and the presentation that has been made will be available through YouTube. That probably by Monday we will share with your link, so you can review the entire recording and you can go through that.
Sure, fair
I'm
enough.
also sharing to all the panelists the Atul Gupta, can I share your mail ID if anybody has
Yeah, please.
in
Yeah.
future if they have any questions they can. So I've just shared on the chat box that will remain, and this will not be there on record. But however, people who wants to make a note of our chairman Atul Gupta's mail ID, if you have any future, you have any questions, you can. And there is somebody's replied, Jatin, as you are talking about hydrogen and see the increasing focus, how do you see the energy? Question to you, Atul. Chat box.
So see, hydrogen, it's just started. So short term, to answer how much share it will take from the overall, how much pie it will take of the overall energy requirement will be very tough to answer. But I think long term, yes, hydrogen will play a good role. It will play a important role in overall energy requirement.
Wonderful. I think we are running late. Over to Atul. We can ask our administrator to give word of thanks.
Sure. Over to you, Mamanta. Now it's.
You're a mute, Mamata. We can't hear you. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So on behalf of Focus Management, I would like to thank all the speakers for taking out time from their busy schedules and making this event successful. I would also like to thank Jackson for coming forward and sponsoring this event. And special thanks to Mr. Atul Gupta, who has managed wonderfully this session by moderating and giving us the welcome note. And also, I would like to thank our president, Mr. Suresh. I think today it was a busy, every day he's busy. That's a different thing. But today he was having back-to-back sessions, but still he asked me the link personally and took some time and came for 10 minutes and he gave a very valuable information on the solar. And I believe this is his interesting topic. And he also wants to have one more session. So I would see that, we will cooperate and then have some session for more longer time. And then I would also like to thank our chairman for marketing, Mr. Dominic, who is continuously keeping all of us busy with webinars. And, he's always creative, comes up with different concepts and different ideas and keeps pushing all the verticals. That's how we have been successfully completing the 11th webinar. And our next webinar is on sustainability vertical.
That by sustainable,
Sorry,
it's clean, not clean energy. It's a finish. It's what do you call it?
Healthy buildings and healthy planet.
Yeah, healthy building, healthy planet.
So we would request all the participants to join the session. I would be sharing the link to everybody. So I would request all the participants to join the session. It is more closely related to clean and green energy. And I also request all the participants to become the members of Focus so as to encourage our, all these webinars and our activities we are taking for the Focus as for a social cause, I can tell. So with this, I would like to thank everybody once again, all the participants and the speakers, panelists, and everybody, and would like to end the session with your permission. Thank you so much.